so now we're going to load the applicator. The easiest way to work is to make sure you have enough room to work in here. If this isn't enough room for you, you can slide the applicator stand over by grabbing it in the middle and pulling on it. You pull it over, that should give you a little bit more room to work with. So now we've got a little bit of access to the whole side of the applicator here. When you're done, you can push it back, same thing, push from the middle. We'll start from scratch. Go ahead and open the printer, and we'll go ahead and open up our 3 pinch points. The first one is going to be the pinch gate. It's this little gate that's on the bottom. You're just going to push up on this lever. That will allow it to drop down. And we're going to open the print head. You just pull back on it here. And the print head is located right here. So now you know that that's up. And then the pinch gate. It's hard to read, but it actually says pull on this tab here. So when you pull up on that tab, it'll open up your gap sensor. The first thing of note is on each of these discs, the lower and the upper, there are little nylon tip balls in here that just act as a way to put tension on this spindle as we're putting them on and off. They just pull off. You don't have to twist them or anything, so we can pull those off. If we're starting with our fresh roll of labels, make sure that we feed it overhand towards the front of the machine. And we're just going to follow the pinstriping that's already on the plate. So this pinstriping up here shows that it's coming from around this tension arm. So we need to go around the tension arm first. Following it forward, we're going to go over the idler. And here is the label out sensor. This sensor tells us whether the label stock is gone. If it's gone, we send the message that we're out of labels. So we want to make sure we don't hit that with our thumb or anything while we're putting it on. Now we got our label backing. We're going to go ahead and take this loose backing and we're going to pull it all the way to the floor. And once the edge of that label backing goes down and curls on the floor a little bit, that gives us enough webbing to go ahead and feed everything through the way we need to. Now, the applicator doesn't need all of the labels that we have on here because some of these are for part of this path after we're done with the printer. So we only want to start with what's actually in the printer. The rest can be taken off. Keep one for yourself to apply the label backing back to the new core. Just grabbing it to like the last 10 inches or so here. We're going to go ahead and just feed it in from the side. Following our pinstriping, we're going to follow it into the printer here. And it's hard to see, but there is a diagram on the inside here that tells you we need to go under this post right here that has a guide and come in along the top of everything else. As we feed our label backing in from the side, before we can bring it around to go under it, we want to make sure that we go over the top of this post here. This post has little air holes in it that blow up, and we don't want to block those air holes. And as we come back through the printer, we're going to go over the top of this pinch gate. So just pull enough to feed over the top of that, and now you can pull the rest of it out. Once the label backing is all pulled through and you're up to the labels inside the printer, there's no more that you need to do with that. Now we're back to following the pinstriping on the bottom of the plate here. We follow it to the back. You'll notice that you are supposed to be under everything as you come back. You don't want to come over the top of any of these and then to the tension arm because that'll create so much tension that it'll snap your label backing. So stay under everything. Go around the tension arm and then coming back forward to this idler. And following the striping here, you're going to come back under this one. And that's where you can join your label backing to the empty core using one of the labels that you've already torn off. Once that's on, you can go ahead and put your bottom back on. Make sure it's pressed on there really good. And your top, when you put it on, same thing. But you also want to make sure that you've pressed the two top ones together tight enough to make sure you've really compressed that roll together. Once that's done, you push the tension arm back here so that it pulls up any slack that's in the line. So working our way backwards, we'll start with the pinch gate again, close it. That's just by pushing up on it, closing the print head, pushing that latch down, and then closing your gap sensor. Now, one of the problems during loading on the gap sensor can be, as you're loading, you might get a label stuck on the inside of here. If you do that and then close it and go to calibrate it, it's going to feed multiple labels. If you see the symptom of multiple labels, that means you have a label stuck to the inside of your gap sensor. Again, if you don't follow the routing for this, you could end up tearing the webbing, because as this thing kicks in a lot of tension, it could just pull it and tear it. The other thing, if you have routed it incorrectly, the other symptom may be that the label backing is just falling out onto the floor. And that just means that we've allowed this to come back up and it timed out and it's not kicked back on yet. So the first thing to check if you're seeing label backing falling to the floor or being chopped is to check and see if you have routed it correctly. And then now we're ready to close the lid. Come back around to the front. Right now our printer says that it's offline. We're just going to put it on line. We want to go ahead and press line and it will auto calibrate. It's going to feed out 2 to 3 labels on top of each other. So hit line. And there are labels stuck to the tamp right now. I'm just going to pull those off. And it's hard to see, but there's usually 2 to 3 of them stacked up on top of each other. That means that your gap sensor is calibrated. I'll press the line button on the applicator. And if the air stops, you're good to go.